So, do I sit on no-hit Gaius in the hopes that one of them is going to... What does that do? He no-hit Bayle? He no-hit Bayle? This is my reaction playing against an Elden Ring cheater while we were playing a game of Elden Ring DLC Bingo. Although at the time, I, along with other Elden Ring pros, thought that he was just a really skilled player. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how he cheated, how we proved that he cheated, and how I actually beat him in spite of him cheating. Twice. I hope you enjoy, and be sure to stay until the end of the video because how this all ends is absolutely crazy. To give a quick overview about what Elden Ring Lockout Bingo is, it's pretty simple. We've come up with a list of 100 plus objectives, such as killing certain remembrance bosses, collecting certain items, or even something more specific like killing 3 bosses with the word knight in the name. Every time we start a bingo game, 25 of these random objectives are placed in a random order on a 5x5 board. Once one person completes one objective and marks a respective square, the other person cannot claim the square anymore. The first person to claim bingo, or claim majority, which is 13 squares, on a 5x5 board, wins the game. I've played probably hundreds of bingo games in Elden Ring, and they've mostly been with other Elden Ring content creators associated with bingo brawlers. However, I wanted to see how I would do being outnumbered and going up against multiple regular viewers, all at once. People who may have watched a lot of bingo games, but who haven't played much at all. So initially, me and another streamer by the name of VSweat thought it'd be a cool idea to try a 2v7 bingo game with Elden Ring DLC against some of our viewers, while using a 6x6 board instead of a 5x5. This game went pretty much how we expected it to go. We won pretty easily, ending the game with 19 squares, which is majority. We also got a bingo on the last square that we claimed, so technically we won by majority and by bingo at the same time. And although the game was pretty much a blowout, we were very impressed by one of the viewers who got 2 squares at once at 26.5 minutes. Do I feel bad? You know what, that's a good question, because like, although the people who we're going up against probably don't think that bingo is that easy.
Oh!
Dragon, Egon's rolled finger.
What? What? 26 minutes, insane! Who the fuck is this guy?
He's cracked,
That's
man.
actually terrifying, hello?
Even though dragons aren't the hardest bosses to kill in the game, it was still very impressive that someone who had no competitive experience in Elden Ring could kill the first Ghost Flame Dragon, the solo Jagged Peak Drake, and the Dueling Drakes in all less than 30 minutes. You can tell that we were very excited from our reactions alone. However, there was one thing that was very suspicious about him getting these 2 squares, that neither me nor my teammate noticed at the time, and I'm kinda curious if you, the viewer, noticed it. Here's the clip again. Do I feel bad? You know what, that's a good question, because like, although the people who we're going up against probably don't think that bingo is that easy.
Oh!
Dragon, Egon's rolled finger.
What? What? 26 minutes, insane!
If you don't notice anything wrong, don't worry. I'll come back to this and explain it soon. Needless to say, I like the idea of playing against multiple viewers at once. I thought this was a nice way to play bingo with my community, and to potentially show the contrast between pros and amateurs. I wanted to do more fun matches against viewers, so I ended up playing a 1v3 match against some viewers. And one of those 3 viewers was the same viewer who killed the 3 dragon bosses in the previous game. And wouldn't you know it, he got the same score again in this match. Dude, that's crazy. That's actually crazy, man. To be honest, this game was a lot tougher than the previous game I played against the viewers. However, I didn't think I was that outmatched at the beginning, until this happened. So, do I sit on no-hit Gaius in the hopes that one of them is going to... What does that do? He no-hit Bayle? He no-hit Bayle? What is that all about, dude? The same viewer who killed 3 dragon bosses also killed Bayle while summoning Egon without taking a single hit, and he got enough runes from all the dragon boss fights to get to rune level 85. I was completely astonished, and at this point you're probably suspecting him of cheating, since that's what the title of this video implies. And you'd be right. This viewer was indeed cheating. In fact, there was yet another suspicious thing that occurred when he marked those 3 squares all at once. Did he notice it this time? Let's play the clip again. So, do I sit on no-hit Gaius in the hopes that one of them is going to... What does that do? He no-hit Bayle? If you didn't catch it that time, don't worry, I'll reveal what's wrong with it in a bit. But how was he cheating? And why was I not skeptical about whether or not he was cheating at this point? To answer that second question is very easy. Even though this viewer was not known at all in the Elden Ring community, that doesn't really matter. There have been countless times in my career where I've come across a smaller content creator or a random viewer who was insanely skilled. And to cheat at something so meaningless as a fun match between me and the community was almost out of the question. But alas, that's what he did. Before I explain how he cheated, now would be a great time to explain how these viewers were communicating. They were all in a voice call in my Discord server while they were streaming their gameplay, just in case other viewers wanted to see their perspectives. Well, most of them were streaming their gameplay, except for the cheater. He kept on saying that his PC would become buggy every time he tried to share his screen. Again, we didn't really expect people to cheat on something so meaningless, so we didn't really pay too much mind to someone not showing their gameplay. Also, it was pretty common for some pros to play practice matches offline while not showing their gameplay either, so I didn't really think it was too weird at the time. Anyway, at this point I was not thinking that cheating was very likely, and I inevitably lost the game. I know. Shocker. This led me to think that a 1v3 match may be a bit too ambitious, so I asked one of the viewers to set up for one match, so that it was only a 1v2. They agreed, and I played another game against the cheater and one other viewer. This game was actually very good, despite going up against the cheater, of course, but it was very close throughout the entire game somehow, and admittedly, the only way I was able to win was because the cheater did not understand one of the squares correctly and mismarked it. Due to the rules of bingo, if you mismark a square for too long before correcting it, you can no longer obtain this square, and then only your opponent can claim it later, which meant that the kill 3 unique invaders square was essentially a free square for me. Regardless, I won. Against the cheater. I still don't know how you lose when you're cheating. Anyway, this cheater's username had Scammer in the name. I know, a very fitting name for a cheater. The next time I ended up playing bingo with the cheater was in a 2v5 match. And this, surprisingly, was another win for me. However, the most suspect thing that the cheater ever did occurred in this game. And that moment is right here. Yeah, it's crazy.
Thanks, Madge.
Nameless mausoleums.
What do you mean, nameless mausoleums? That doesn't make any sense. What 2 nameless mausoleums did he do?
There's probably Black Shale and, Rana.
In 4 minutes?
That wasn't 4 minutes. That was, 5.5-ish.
5 minutes, sorry? I guess.
This might not look like that big of a deal until further context is given. You see, just 5.5 minutes before the cheater marked this square, he actually marked Acquire Egon's Furled Finger. And yes, I know, it's very convenient that this guy always goes with the same squares every single game. The thing is, to do the 2 Nameless Mausoleum square in 5.5 minutes is fast. Like, unreasonably fast. And it made no sense. Also, the cheater marked 2 squares at once. Kill Bayle while summoning Egon, and reach level 85, in about 6 minutes after the 2 Mausoleum squares marked. I was confused, my teammate was confused, so I decided to test how fast I could do the squares myself. If you don't know what a Nameless Mausoleum in the DLC is, it's one of those boss arenas that has a ghost NPC boss fight. And there are 4 of them. Knight of the Solitary Jail, Red Bear, Rana, and Rakshasa. Now you might be thinking that maybe the cheater already had 1 mausoleum completed, then got Egon's Furled Finger, then got the last mausoleum. But you'd be wrong, because he literally admitted in my chat that this wasn't the case. What was your pathing from the beginning to the dragons? Did you just go straight to the dragons? Did you kill the mausoleum? What did you do? And then after the dragons you went to Egon? You went from dragons to Egon and then straight to mausoleum, right? Am I understanding that correctly? He explained his exact movements, and I recreated him to the best of my ability. And after taking the time to run to both mausoleums and kill each boss, which by the way, I fought the 2 bosses at a higher rune level and a higher Scado level than him, meaning that I was dealing more damage than he was. And he told me that he put a Sacred Affinity on his weapon, which is a terrible affinity to use on the majority of the bosses in the DLC, since they are very resistant to holy damage. And being that my fights were very good, it's safe to say that I did the fights faster than he could have, since I also had a better affinity on my weapon and I was dealing more damage. I ended up not completing the square in 5.5 minutes. But I actually completed the square in 9 minutes and 46 seconds. Now, I'm not going to say that I know everything about this game. I'm not going to say that I know everything about bingo. But it's safe to bet that I, someone who's poured hundreds of hours into bingo practice, am not going to do a square like complete 2 Nameless Mausoleums almost 5 minutes slower than a random viewer who has only been playing bingo for a few days. I decided to look even deeper into some of his gameplay choices. Next up was testing the time that it took to kill Bayle during the same match. It supposedly took him about 6 minutes and 15 seconds to mark killing Bayle and get rune level 85. But it took me about 5 minutes and 40 seconds at rune level 83 and Scado level 8. For context, he would have been about rune level 60 and Skadu level 3, meaning that he would have had to fight Bayle at a lower level than me and at Skadu 3 instead of level 8, all while using the Sacred Affinity on his Great Katana, which again is a terrible affinity and possibly the worst one to use in this case. And he was only half a minute slower than me. Also, side note, regarding his weapon choice, he originally said that he used the backhand blades, but eventually changed his answer to the Great Katana, so who knows if he was even actually playing at this point. Additionally, now is the time for me to reveal the significance of this marking in the first game that he played. The people who we're going up against probably don't think that bingo is that easy.
Oh!
Dragon Egon's rolled finger!
What?
This marking in the second game that he played. What does that do? He no-hit Bayle? And this marking in the last game that he played. Yeah, look at that. All of these markings include him marking at least 2 squares at once. The problem is that these squares should not be marked at the same time. For example, in the very first game he marked kill 3 dragon bosses and acquire Egon's furrowed finger at the same time. However, even if you kill the 2 dueling drakes as your 3rd dragon boss, you still have to ride over to Egon, talk to him, and then he gives you his finger. Meaning that you should be marking the 3 dragon square around 15 to 20 seconds before marking the Egon finger square. For the second suspicious marking, and the biggest one at that, when he marked kill Bayle while summoning Egon, kill a remembrance boss hitless, and reach rune level 85, he should have only marked kill Bayle and a hitless remembrance boss first. Then he should have marked reach level 85 about 15 to 20 seconds afterwards because it takes time to warp to a grace, sit down, and then spend all your runes to level up. And lastly, in the last game that he played, he also marked kill Bayle and level 85 at the same time. Again, he should have marked these 2 squares separately, about 15 to 20 seconds apart. To further cast suspicion on this whole Bayle play,
He no-hit Bayle?
I had to figure out if you could even get to rune level 85 from simply rushing to kill Bayle. So, let's do some math together, shall we? To get to rune level 85, you need 1,223,315 runes. The number of runes that he would have gotten are as follows: 120,000 from the Ghostflame Dragon, 156,000 from Ancient Dragon Man, 108,000 from the Jagged Peak Drake, 144,000 from the Dueling Drakes before Egon, 588,000 from Bayle. Mind you, all these numbers factor in the Gold Scarab Talisman, which increases your rune acquisition by 20% after defeating enemies. And since we use a mod for bingo that starts us in the DLC with some extra runes, we also start with 160,000 runes. This comes out to 1,356,000 runes. Seems pretty legit, right? Wrong. What we haven't factored into the equation are some other things that we would have needed to purchase with all these runes. These expenses are as follows: 64,800 runes for smithing stones to upgrade the Great Katana to plus 24, 38,015 runes to actually upgrade the weapon itself, 2,000 runes for the whetstone knife, and 35,000 runes for the sanctified whetblade, 300 runes for the crafting kit, and 30,000 runes for the Gold Scarab Talisman, which, as stated before, increases rune acquisition by 20%. All these expenses, plus the number of runes needed to reach level 85, come out to 1,393,430 runes. That's around 37,000 runes short of what he would have needed to reach level 85. So, it is mathematically impossible for him to have reached level 85 from killing the bosses that he claimed to have beaten. What's even worse is if we analyze his last game where he killed all the same bosses except for the first Jagged Peak Drake, that would mean that he would be short over 225,000 runes in order to get to rune level 85. Up until now, I've just been impressed that this guy has had the gall to keep up this shit for so long, and to lie over and over again as opposed to just coming clean and owning up to his wrongdoing. He constantly stated in my chat that he actually no-hit Bayle. He stated several times that he couldn't stream his perspective because it would make his PC buggy. And he claimed that Cheat Engine, a program that allows you to, well, cheat, did not work on his PC, even though Cheat Engine can almost literally be run on a potato. But there was just one more thing that he did that no lie could save him from. The nail in the coffin. And that was the fact that after he supposedly killed Bayle, he decided to mark the square requiring you to put Florisax to sleep using Tiolier's concoction. The problem is, when you kill Bayle, Florisax disappears, which would mean that he would have locked himself out of the square, making it impossible for him to mark it. What's really crazy is, since I'm such a curious person, I really wanted to get to the bottom of how he cheated. We all know that he cheated, but what was he doing while he was playing bingo? Why, if he was cheating, did he allow me to beat him not once, but twice? To answer this, I actually timed myself to see how long it would take me to complete the squares that he stated he completed when he marked that no-hit Bayle square. And the results were really interesting. First of all, I realized just how terrible his supposed setup was. As I said earlier, we use a mod for DLC Bingo, and this mod has a merchant at the very beginning where we can purchase talismans, wet blades, physic tiers, greases, and spells. Usually, pro players would purchase at least one physic tier and at least 1 or 2 talismans. These would be used to either increase our damage or increase our defenses. But the cheater didn't state that he bought any of these. He only stated that he bought the gold scarab. And even if he did buy more than the gold scarab at the very beginning, that would mean that he would have spent even more runes and be even farther away from reaching rune level 85. Regardless, I ran into the first issue very quickly. See, if you purchase the gold scarab at the very beginning, you don't actually have enough runes to level up your weapon all the way. So that meant that I needed to kill at least one boss with a plus 20 great katana with holy damage. So, after I killed Ancient Dragon Man, I upgraded my weapon to plus 24, and I went to go kill the other bosses. I completed the kill 3 dragon bosses square in about 22 minutes, a square that took the cheater about 25 minutes. And I killed Bayle about 29 minutes into the run, something that took the cheater about 35 minutes. Needless to say, when I attempted to level up to 85, I was short 3 levels. But what's interesting is the times that he marked the squares were very reasonable. And although that I was faster than him, the time that it took for him to mark the squares is almost represented by someone who knows what they're doing, and who is far from a beginner. The reason why I mentioned that his times are far from what a beginner can do is because the cheater actually streamed his gameplay on his Twitch channel before this, and for some reason, his PC wasn't buggy when streaming it this time. Anyway, the gameplay that he showed was definitely gameplay from a beginner. I watched through his gameplay while I was live, and here's what I found. He was punishing attacks that just weren't safe, and he didn't know how to dodge basic attacks. For some reason, he tried to use the Ash of War of the Serpent Hunter on Rykard multiple times in a row, even though you have to wait a while between uses in order to stagger Rykard with it. He constantly spams the roll button on some attacks, indicating that he doesn't actually know how to dodge the attack itself. He heals when it's absolutely not safe, getting hit multiple times across multiple boss fights. He seemingly doesn't know how long buffs last, and they often run out before he even gets a hit on the boss. He dodges attacks after the attack already finishes, signifying that he does not know the range of the attacks that he's dodging. And for some reason, he punishes Horulu's Earthquake with a jumping attack. Then he gets one shot.
He no-hit Bayle?
It is important to note that I'm not making fun of this person and laughing at his level of skill in the game when I show some of the inexperience that I found while watching his gameplay. I'm listing these issues to show that it is very unlikely for him to have killed Bayle without taking a hit, as well as some other things that he claimed. For transparency, his stream only showed him fighting bosses in the base game, not the bosses in the DLC. However, the base game bosses are much easier to fight than the ones in the DLC. And that's not even accounting for the fact that the base game of Elden Ring has been released 2.5 years earlier than the DLC. Meaning that, if anything, he should be much better at the base game than he is in the DLC. So this got me wondering, how was he able to accurately mark the squares if he was cheating? If he wasn't actually playing, and was just guessing when to mark the squares, then I'm assuming he would have made a mistake somewhere and marked a dragon square way too early to be believable. And then I remembered something. Remember when the cheater stated that Cheat Engine could not run on his computer? Well, that was certainly a lie, but I think he actually used Cheat Engine while playing Bingo, and I think he just enabled no death during his playtime. This would actually make perfect sense, and would explain how he was able to time the squares so accurately. Even though he couldn't die while fighting the bosses, he was probably getting hit multiple times during the fights, ultimately slowing him down and making him slower than me. However, the only reason why I became so suspicious of him in the first place was when he marked the 2 Nameless Mausoleum square, which I don't actually believe he took the time to kill those 2 bosses because, well, he didn't time the squares correctly. I believe this answers the question of how he allowed me to win 2 matches against him. For the most part, he was actually playing the game and wasn't just marking random squares to win the game. He was just tanking a lot of hits while he couldn't die, which just slowed him down. However, it's still pretty hilarious that I was able to beat someone twice while they were cheating, because that's just embarrassing. When confronted with these facts, I asked the cheater if he had anything to say for himself, since in the event that I'm wrong and that he didn't cheat, I would need to know what strategies he used so that I can use them in future bingo matches. This is what happened. Dude. 4 minutes and 20 seconds. There is no way. I did everything that you did. I was Skadu 8. I was more Skadu than you. What did you do faster than me? And you had Holy Infusion the whole time. Maybe that was slightly early. Wait, no. What do you mean slightly early? No, this has nothing to do with dragons. This has nothing to do with dragons. This is after you got Egon's finger and you killed 2 mausoleums. What did you do differently than me? There is some tech that we don't know if you didn't cheat. At this point, I had already banned this cheater out of my community, and this cheater won't have any chances of coming back to my community even if he asks to be unbanned. I like to give people second chances since they're hard to come by, but he throws chances away over and over again. Needless to say, whenever a viewer wants to play main bingo in the future, they're going to have to be streaming their perspective so that someone can verify that they're not cheating. I know. Shocker. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it helps me grow my channel and encourages me to post more content. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and remember, if you're gonna cheat, just be sure to f***ing win.
He no-hit Bayle?